Hi! So Sundance was last weekend, right? And I noticed that Sundance was a very nice weekend for some deaf filmmakers and actors and such. And I'm very happy for the acquaintances of mine that have gotten to, show their films and whatever it is that they were doing. Of course, there is one issue that has occurred at Sundance that we all need to talk about, and that is the fact that Marlee Matlin, who was a juror for one of the films, had zero access for her job, and she and thankfully Hearing Allies walked right out. Sundance jury walks out of Magazine Dreams premiere after festival fails to provide captioning for juror Marlee Matlin. If you do not know who Marlee Matlin is, she is one of the biggest mainstream deaf names around here. Children of a Lesser God, she was on Switched at Birth, and a new show called Accused has come out, and she has actually directed one of the episodes that is showing tonight. And I kind of want to do a video on that as well. I'm going to watch it tonight and see what happens. But yeah, Marlee Matlin is pretty well known in the community, so stuff like this tends to be a big deal. It would be a big deal even if it wasn't a big name, but it's an even bigger deal when it is a big name. Jurors for Sundance's Jewish dramatic competition walked out of the premiere of Magazine Dreams on Friday night over an incident in which the festival failed to provide adequate captioning for deaf audience members, including juror Marlee Matlin. So I know Marlee was part of the jury. I don't know what other deaf people came to the premiere. I know Russell Harvard was at Sundance. I know Wawa was at Sundance. A couple of other people. I don't know if they were actually part of the premiere. But, you got one deaf person there, you're gonna want to have it to be accessible. Members of the dramatic jury, consisting of Jeremy O. Harris, Eliza Hittman, and Matlin, decided to collectively walk out of the film as it began after a caption device provided to Matlin didn't work. While the device was repaired hours later, it underscored a larger issue that has played out behind the scenes regarding the festival's abilities to make movies accessible to all viewers. The festival said the jurors intend to screen the film as a group before Sundance, and I don't know exactly what physical captioning device was being given to Marlee. I imagine that it's probably the Captive View. The Captive View has a cup holder ending to it. You put it in a cup holder. I don't know what the inside of the room to these premieres look like, so maybe it's a completely different device altogether, but it's obviously going to be a physical device. That means that the video, the movie itself, is not open captioned, which is actually what you want to have when you have movies at a film festival. I've made videos on Captive View in the past, and now that AMC had started to make more showings be open captioned, I never ever want to use a Captive View ever again. I think they're garbage in comparison. They were kind of already garbage anyways, because sometimes the files are broken, half the captions are missing, batteries are dead before you even get the device, batteries die in the middle of the movie. They're just complete garbage now when you've experienced open captions, because of what's gonna go wrong in an open caption. Maybe a typo or something, but I mean. Also, if you were to have other deaf audience members besides Marlee being a juror, she has a captioning device, but what about the other folks that may have been in the audience? According to multiple sources, the jury has repeatedly expressed concerns to both Sundance and filmmakers that movies playing at this year's festival should come with open captions. At other international festivals, including Cannes and Venice, movies are captioned in multiple languages on the screen. Does that mean you're getting multiple lines on the screen? Is that what they're doing? I've never been to one of these things, so I don't even know. That's a lot. Or do they have like separate premieres for each language or TV screens or something? I don't know. This year's application for credentials to Sundance asked attendees if they needed access to captioning, so you were told ahead of time, and yet. However, multiple sources state that several filmmakers have declined a request to provide open captions on screen, citing the cost and time associated with making another print. Sources say that some buyers even suggested that including captions on screen could somehow hurt the film's asking prices on the market as they try to land distribution. Somebody on Twitter made a note about this specifically. Nowadays, all movies come on encrypted hard drives, not reels. It costs nothing to turn on the captions. Before the theaters converted to digital projectors, they had to make a separate print. The captions were embedded directly onto the print. That's what they meant by the extra cost, but that's not what's happening here. The option is readily available and free on the hard drive. And then there's a little bit of discussion, a little bit of back and forth in the replies, but here we go. I never said it was free to develop the captions. The filmmakers claimed that it would cost more to make a new print. That part is misleading because they are using DCPs, not reels. It has a toggle option for the captions. No extra copies needed. In the midst of the Magazine Dreams controversy, the jury sent a signed letter to festival filmmakers imploring them to allow open caption DCP prints to screen. We have all traveled to Utah to celebrate independent film and those who devote their lives to making them. There's a thrill to sit in a room with others who love films and cheer for them together, and Sundance has been an important place for each of us to do that over our varied careers. The U.S. independent cinema movement began as a way to make film accessible to everyone, not just those with the most privileges among us. As a jury, our ability to celebrate the work that all of you have put into making these films has been disrupted by the fact that they are not accessible to all three of us. Are all three of them deaf on a juror? I don't know who the other two are. In response to the incident, Sundance CEO provided a statement. Our goal is to make all experiences, in person and online, as accessible as possible for all participants. Our accessibility efforts are admittedly always evolving, and feedback helps drive it forward for the community as a whole. You don't need to wait for feedback at the end of the day. Hire an accessibility consultant. Hi, hire me. Hire an accessibility consultant and get that out of the way already. And not only that, but this isn't your first rodeo when it comes to dealing with accessibility. Because last year, when you came out with an online-only festival, the requirement was filmed to be captioned. When it was online in 2021, captions were a requirement. Last year's online-only festival came with a new requirement that filmmakers and partners caption films and programming. Filmmakers and distributors seem to have the responsibility of providing the captions. And that was in response to me asking Universe, because I know how to do the accessibility part. The legal jargon part is not necessarily my forte all the time. So I was asking, because I just wanted to make sure before I set it into this video, who is responsible? And I didn't ask this as an opinion, I asked this for an actual answer. Who is responsible for making sure that everything is captioned? Sundance or the filmmakers? And I even asked this on LinkedIn, because what better way to really get a response to something legal than to ask on LinkedIn? And a couple of my colleagues, one of my colleagues in particular that I really love, actually answered the question. It all depends on the event. To my understanding, the host of the event is responsible to ensure that the event is accessible. If an event is public, legally, they should be providing accommodation. If an individual makes a request for accommodation, such as captions for a film screening, they need to provide access. It can be many different ways: remotely, open captioning, closed captioning. I've been to several film screenings and they didn't have captioning provided. It is a preview of the film before it goes to the release. Regardless if it's a preview or not, it needs to be accessible, period. Typically, the film festival has an accessibility department that you can reach out to and make your request. And so I asked again because I just wanted to make sure, okay, so Sundance is responsible for making sure that everything is captioned. Amanda replied with yes and told me that Sundance had made a statement for 2021. The 2021 Sundance Film Festival being virtual this year also brings a desire to be accessible to all. According to Sundance, all films will be available with closed captioning or subtitles. All official talks and events will include live captioning. And each of the 5 events, this was for which Respectability was involved, each of Respectability's 5 events will include live captions as well as ASL interpreters. Sundance has gone to great lengths in the past to accommodate people with various disabilities as part of its stated mandate of inclusivity. This year, 2 ASL interpreters have accompanied festival leadership and filmmakers on stage for opening remarks and Q&A sessions following screenings. Sources say the festival tried to work around the Magazine Dreams team's refusal to provide captions and gave Matlin alternative technology, which malfunctioned. The premiere start time was delayed by 45 minutes. The source says the postponement was due to a technical issue, but it remains clear if it was related to captioning. It's not immediately clear if other films will not allow for on-screen captioning after this mishap. So mishaps do happen. I've been to one film festival, YouTube/film festival, twice. Buffer Festival. It is not as well known and isn't as rich in money as Sundance is, but it's a film festival. And I've had a cart get messed up, to which a panelist of mine tried as much as she could to make sure I kind of got the gist of what was going on. I've had interpreters cancel 12 hours before the actual event, to which somebody involved was up all night trying to find a replacement, also doing other things as well as trying to find an ASL interpreter replacement, poor guy. At the end of the day, a volunteer of the staff ended up kind of being an interpreter, which he really shouldn't have done. I'm thankful that he offered, but really that wasn't his job, and it just so happened that he knew ASL because he caught me talking gossip in the green room. So yeah, things happen. And that was also pretty much their first rodeo, I think, with having a deaf person involved or coming to their festival to begin with. Sundance has had deaf people come to their events as audience members, as someone, you know, actually being involved with the film. This was not their first rodeo, so why are we not checking to make sure that actual devices are working ahead of time? Why aren't we preparing better? This is not the first time that a deaf filmmaker has shown up and talked about the lack of accessibility or something malfunctioning. You should already know this ahead of time and should have already been prepared for that. And this is the part where I bring up having films open captioned would be great. You got a script, paste it in there. It's a lot easier actually to put captions and stuff on a film than it is a YouTube video that you make off the cuff because you have to type out by hand and it's all brand new. Versus when you're putting it on a film, a lot of it could be copy and paste and tweaking the formatting of it. When I did go to Buffer Festival 2 years in a row, besides me, of course, who submitted some stuff and was on 2 screenings, I can think of 2 people in those 2 years, so only 2 videos, probably 1 video a year, or actually I think year 1 nobody captioned anything, and then in year 2 that I went, the last year that I went, 2 people open captioned their videos. And again, of course, I'm pretty sure I had carts, so like if the video was being played, it would be typed up. But having CART in a film festival, because one of the things that occurred when we had CART was CART would be in the green room, or not in the green room, they would be backstage and they wouldn't be able to properly hear anybody or everybody on the panel, on the screening itself, and then a lot of it was just backed up, Wi-Fi issues and whatever. So having to do that with films, because you know, especially nowadays, everybody's talking about how they're having such problems understanding movies and things like that, so you have to put subtitles on. Everybody's using subtitles now, everybody's using captions now, because the sound mixing in films is just so awful now. It's so wonky, so random. Having CART, but I don't think Marlee Matlin is in CART here. I think she had Captiview or something similar to Captiview, and a file was put on there. But those, you just don't know. You should have tested out. Somebody, whoever involved, whatever department involved, should have checked it out ahead of time. Of course, even then, you can check it out ahead of time, make sure it works, and then it'll malfunction somehow. Because that's just what technology does, like seconds before it's supposed to like be officially used, right? But if you know that a film in particular is going to have a deaf person as part of the jury, is going to have them as part of the audience, Sundance needs to remember that they're responsible for making sure that is accessible. And from what I remember, or if I recall correctly, they were able to get that premiered, they were able to watch it with captions, with subtitles, and now it's just another day, another year where we're all like, okay, this is what we're reminding you that you need to do again, and it's work that's never ending. Then again, if it was fixed, I'd be out of a career. So I mean, here's to hoping that the same problems will not occur next year, and I'm very happy that she wasn't the only person to walk out. You know, it's always nice to have allies come with and be like, okay, this isn't acceptable. I'm not gonna sit here and watch this film when my colleague right beside me cannot even get the same access to the film that I am getting. So let's make a statement, head on out. There's my thoughts on that. I know other people have made statements. I will put links to those, whatever I can find, down in the description box below so you can read up more on that. Thank you to everyone who has pledged on Patreon recently since the last video that has been uploaded. If you do pledge on Patreon for as low as $1 a month, you get access to lots of extra content, lots of exclusive content, and it's a great way to help support the work that I do. There's also a super thanks down here, kind of like a tip jar for YouTube. That's also very much appreciated should you choose to do so. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. We will always be talking more about accessibility and about movies and things like that. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on those uploads. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video, and I will see you later.